So with that, I would like to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Naomi Krauzig. I'm part of the training and mentoring task team of the ECOP program, and I will be your host and moderator for today. For those of you who are not so familiar with ECOP yet, ECOP stands for Early Career Ocean Professional, and it's a program at the heart of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, and it was actually endorsed by the UN Ocean Decade as a network program in 2021. And as part of the knowledge we want to share among young professionals, we have developed a series of webinars that aim to train and inform the community of ocean lovers, let's say. And today we have a very exciting and super interesting webinar. Our episode 18 is dedicated to ocean prediction, and we have 3 expert speakers that will present highlights of the Ocean Prediction Decade Collaborative Center, short as TCC, and its mission to advance global ocean forecasting for the sustainable management of ocean resources and human welfare. So, as I said, we have 3 invited speakers. We have Enrique Alvarez, who is a physical oceanographer with several decades of experience in operational oceanography, and he's a technical coordinator of the DCC. And previously, he led monitoring for the Monitoring and Forecasting Division at Puertos del Estado, and he specialized in bridging ocean science and applications. And he is contributing to a lot of service-oriented projects and contributing also to international initiatives. We have also Lilian Diarra, who is the project manager, who's a project manager and specializing in ocean science and data with over 10 years of experiences in coordination, communication, and stakeholder management. She leads a project under the Ocean Prediction DCC, enhancing ocean forecasting and cooperation in Africa to support sustainable development. We have also Stefania Ciliberti, who is an environmental hydraulic engineer specializing in numerical modeling. Again, with over a decade of experience in ocean science and operational oceanography. She is also a product quality manager at the NOW Systems, overseeing assessment and multi-model comparison for forecasting systems. As you can see, all 3 of them have a lot of experience and are willing to share the efforts and the highlight of the Ocean DCC with us. So I think there are several key points that any young student will really have a chance to learn more about. We will share the links to all of the topics that were mentioned. So please keep notes. You can always reach out to them. They shared their LinkedIn and emails as well. So I would say take advantage that they're all here and enjoy the webinar itself. With that, I want to give over to our first speaker, Enrique. If you want to go ahead and share your screen, please do so.
Sure. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank to you for the opportunity of being here in behalf of myself and my other colleagues, and in behalf of the Ocean Prediction Decade Collaborative Center. We are excited about presenting our activities to you, and I hope you will enjoy and you will be interested in what we have to tell you today. So without further delay, I will share my screen and I will start describing what we are trying to achieve with the Ocean Prediction Decade Collaborative Center. So I hope everything is fine on your side.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Good. So first of all, a little bit of context of where we are in the framework of the decade. Of course, since you are familiar with the ECOP program, you are familiar with the decade. And this figure is extracted from the decade implementation plan. And you can see here that a predicted ocean is one of the main decade expected outcomes. So to respond to this outcome, to Ocean Prediction DCC is a UN decade collaborative body which is hosted by Mercator Ocean International, with the main idea of creating collaboration, producing collaboration between all these actions in the decade that are moving towards this objective of a predicted ocean. So this is where we are in the framework of the decade, and if we have to summarize what we want to achieve in a single slide, this is the slide I always use. And on the left is the ocean forecast that we have today. We have several systems around the globe, and we are proud of these systems because we have been developing these systems for decades. For example, Stefani and myself, we have been working for many years for many years in the development of the Copernicus marine service. We know those systems are useful, but we have to admit that we can still do better because those systems are somehow technically disconnected. We are not using the same tools. We are not using the same data standards. We are not sharing the same interoperable spaces. And those systems on top of that are very complex to develop, to implement, and to operate. So it takes a lot of research and a lot of start from scratch from a new institution to build one of these systems. We want to do a fundamental change during the decade, or contribute at least to this change, to this vision. And by the end, we want many more systems around, and we want these systems connected through a community and technically connected through common interoperable spaces and through shared tools. So that will create also more robust systems worldwide, and that will facilitate the work a lot to those persons in institutions that are a little bit less developed or less advanced. So to achieve this fundamental transformation, we have the analogy of the Ocean Prediction DCC vessel. Here, the captain of this is the UN Ocean Decade. The engineers are in charge of the decade actions and the incoming digital twins of the ocean. This is going to be very important for achieving these interoperable spaces. The crew is going to be the Ocean Prediction DCC community that we are building, and we are going to invite you to be part of this community today. This is maybe our most important message for you today, to invite you to be part of this adventure, of this community. And the navigator will be the Ocean Prediction DCC. So our role will be to set the course from one scenario to the other one. This is the role. Our main role is the inspirational one from one scenario to the other one. So we are, of course, not doing this alone. We are doing this in collaboration with many decade collaborative centers, collaborative offices, which are basically same kind of institution, under the coordination, under the direction of the Decade Coordination Unit, and working together with many decade programs. You can see here a list of those that are directly attached to the Ocean Prediction DCC, primarily endorsed to the Ocean Prediction DCC. I would like to highlight PORSI, DITO, or best practices, for example, as very important decade programs that are primarily endorsed to the DCC. We are also extending our collaboration to other very relevant programs such as OceanPredict. If you put all this in terms of the coordination that we are doing in the decade into a map, you have the regional DCCs that are dealing with specific regions, and then you have on the other side the thematic DCCs, that those two are obviously connected. And inside the thematic DCC, I would like to highlight the collaboration that we are having between the Ocean Observing, the Data Sharing, and the Ocean Prediction DCC, being these three trying to implement a decade digital ecosystem, starting from the observation and ending on the application for the users. So this is the framework in the decade and our main role and where we are sitting. But how we achieve this objective, how we do promote ocean forecasting around the globe. For sure, there are many ways of doing this, but we have found our own ways, and our own way is summarized in this virtuous circle that you can see here, that have several steps. First is to get the knowledge, to start doing things, to get the knowledge, to start understanding the ocean, the basic knowledge. Second is to learn how to develop forecasting systems. Third is to learn how to operate those systems. And finally, how to integrate and develop downstream services based on the data of the forecasting systems. In the core of this loop, we have the ocean prediction community. And as you can see, for each one of these steps, we are building technical assets, the tools guide, the architecture guide, the operational readiness level, the European digital twin of the ocean. Those technical assets will be explained later by Stefania. But I want to focus on the core of the loop, which is the Ocean Prediction DCC community. That is maybe the most important part of our activity. Again, I want to insist that we are not doing this alone. We are doing this in close collaboration with the CADE coordination offices and the CADE programs. Again, you can see, as I mentioned before, Foresee, Best Practices, TITO, CostPredict, James Ocean, and many others that we are collaborating with this shared and common vision. So to implement this vision, we have two pillars. The first one is focused in the core, in the community, and we are organizing this community through regional teams. I will explain a little bit more about the regional teams. And then we have the second pillar, which is the purely technical. This is where we are building the technical assets for the virtuous loop, for the outer layer of the virtuous loop that I was presenting before. This is where we are developing the tools guide, the architecture guide, the operational readiness level guide, where we are creating all these technical assets that will facilitate the implementation and operation of ocean forecasting systems. So going a little bit into the, I will explain basically, on my presentation, I will explain basically pillar number 1, and Stefania will be focused on pillar number 2. So this is what we are really doing, and I will focus on the community. So our community, we cannot think that we can be influential from Toulouse, where Mercator Ocean is placed, in every part of the world. So we have decided to decentralize our community and to build regional teams where the different people is going to be, let's say, our ambassadors to send these messages, to promote these activities with us. So we have divided in based on the UNEP regional system, the GOOS regional alliances, taking the best of both worlds. We have divided the world ocean in 9 regions. And now we have formed these regional teams. They are operational, they are working pretty nice. And those are our boots on the ground to support dedicated actions related to ocean forecasting, to identify gaps and way forwards for capacity building, and to advocate for the implementation of the best practices, standards, and tools that we are developing in the technical part of the work, in the second pillar that I was mentioning. I want to mention that every regional team has also a steering team composed by 11 members. Sometimes it's more than 11 members, but basically we have members associated per category. And these steering teams are about providing ideas to us, making sure that the connection with the technical team with the second pillar is correct, to promote actions in their regions, to form a worldwide network, and to help us to build this community in general. But I want to highlight, because this is important, that we recently have decided to include one more. These regional teams are organized by, let's say, specialists in different topics. So we have one specialist in communication, another one in ocean observing, another. And we have very recently decided to incorporate one more figure here, one more category, which is one ECOP in every single regional team. And we are going to do this through the ECOP program. So I invite you, if you are interested to be part on these regional teams, to share your CV with the dedicated ECOP program. So in this way, you can try to be part of this. We'll have a selection, and we will select in each regional team some members to be part of this steering team. So I encourage you, if you are interested in being part of this steering team and help us in the building of this community and help us in the building of this, on the managing of these regional teams, to apply for this new position that we have very recently created, and to do that through the ECOP Decade program that is hosting this webinar. When you look into the different regions, you see that we have chairs in every region, but when you put together all the institutions that are part of the steering teams, you have a fantastic collection of institutions that are looking forward to help us to move forward this vision. Of course, we are here, most of these people working on voluntary basis, so the contributions are always a little bit limited in this sense, but slowly and with small contributions from everybody, we are advancing properly in the right direction with these regional teams. So we have this Ocean Prediction DCC community, and we have our webpage. And our webpage, I will do a short demo now of it. Let me start by the homepage. Sorry. You should be watching the homepage of the Ocean Prediction DCC community. And you can see here that we have several sections. And I will visit a little bit the Atlas, the forum, and the news section, maybe also the resources, maybe. I will give a little bit of a presentation of the web page. This is the homepage where you can see the latest news. We have just launched Opera project that Lilian will explain to you later on. And here it is on the news. And we have also the link to the tubes guide, which is one of our technical assets. But I want to stop particularly on the Atlas because this is, so our idea is to encourage you to register into our webpage and to be part of this community, to join us and to be visible in the Atlas. Obviously, if you're interested in the world of ocean forecasting and you're interested in these activities. This is the right place for you if you're interested in this. So basically, if you register, you will be on the Atlas and you will have a description of yourself. Please put your picture, put a little bit of a description of what you are doing or what you're trying to achieve. And then we have the Atlas of organizations. This is where you can register the organization where you're working at. If this organization is looking forward to work in the world of ocean forecasting, each organization has the logo, a small description here on the map. Then we have the forecasting systems. This takes a bit more to load. And this is a collection. I think this is probably the most complete inventory ever made about operational ocean forecasting systems around the globe. So if you click on one of these, you will find the domain, you will have all the technical description, you will have everything about these systems. And we have now around 150 systems already recorded in this atlas. So it's a good compilation of the state of the art of the ocean forecasting. Finally, I want to maybe go to another section to show you that you have the news section when you have here a record of our activity. Once you register, you could also subscribe to our newsletter. That is every 3 months approximately we launch via email the newsletter. Also, we have the forum, which is nice, but we are going to change it because we think it's a little bit complicated. Nevertheless, we invite you if you want to participate and if you want to launch your conversations here. It's operational, it's up and running, but it's true that we will change it to make it a little bit more simpler because every single section of the web is being quite successful. We are having a lot of visits. We are having a lot good input on the Atlas. We are having good input everywhere. But the forum, it's true that we are not that successful. So if you want to help us with this part, that will be fantastic, even on its actual form. But certainly we will, in the short future, try to simplify it a little bit So try to make it more simple. And I think this is a little bit complex, or maybe this is why it's not that successful. Then finally, I will go to the resources and this will link with the presentation of Stefania. And you have here the TÜV's guide that we converted into a wiki site, so you can contribute now to the TÜV's guide, adding your own knowledge into this, the architecture guide that I was mentioning, and the operational readiness level. So Stefania will talk about these assets briefly. So I'll go back to my presentation, and I want to finish my part of the presentation with an invitation for you also to join our communication channels. You heard about the news. So for that, you have to register into our website. And when you register into your website, you can subscribe. This is voluntary, but I recommend you to do it, to our newsletter. This is growing very fast because we started in 2 or 3 months ago, I think, and we have already. I think this is now around 600. This is an old number of registered users. We should be around 600 registered users. And I also encourage you to join our LinkedIn page, because we are publishing there a lot of things also, and I think it's active and it's also growing. We are very happy because the interest is high in all these activities, and this is growing very fast. So this explains a little bit stop sharing. This explains a little bit what we are trying to achieve in general and what is our activity in terms of our community. My main message for you is, if you're excited about these topics, join our community, go into our webpage, register, and also go into our LinkedIn and register into our LinkedIn. So with that, I give the floor to a more technical part of the presentation, where we are going to explain pillar number 2. And Stefania, that has been helping me for years in building this pillar, and is my absolutely unneeded right hand for all this, will be in charge of doing this explanation. So Stefania, the floor is yours.
Before we do that, thank you very much, Enrique, for this exciting presentation. We have actually some questions. Should we go over them maybe now before we go to the next part?
No problem, we go now.
Perfect. So if you want to see them yourself, if you click on the Q&A, you can see them there, because there are some acronyms that I am not aware of. So the first one, for example, says, what will be the role of ILK and IK led researchers? So I'm not aware what this.
It's indigenous and local knowledge.
Okay. Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lilian, because I was in the same situation. I also didn't know. So this is an open community, and certainly we are here trying to build a community where everybody learns from everybody. So I think there are very interesting parts of indigenous and local knowledge that are going to be very, very interesting for those who have been in a more, let's say, regular academic background. So I invite you to be part of this community and to incorporate your knowledge to this, maybe through the forum, maybe through the news. We are open to that, but we need your feedback to learn from you. We cannot incorporate this knowledge without an active part from everybody to provide this knowledge. So you're muted.
Sorry. Yes, thanks a lot. And I think we should highlight it again and again. It's important to have more engagement from young researchers as well. So please do, as Enrique mentioned, and join these growing communities. It's very important. And I can see that actually in such a short time, it has grown a lot. So definitely do that. There are 2 more questions. Do you want to go over them now as well?
Okay, no problem. So for the first one is, should an ECOP be already engaged in ocean prediction related work to join the steering team of a regional team? I think it's recommended. I don't think this is something that is mandatory. If you're interested, please submit your CV, and there will be a selection process, and it will be the leaders of the regional teams, the ones selecting the ECOPs, maybe one, maybe several, that will be part of the steering team. And finally, apart from joining the communication channels, how we can join the regional teams of the Ocean Prediction DCC? Well, there's not any eligible. I mean, the regional teams are really the extension of our governance. So the regional teams are really governance body, and the regional teams are the ones that are helping us to build the community. So in the moment that the really important thing is that you are part of the community. And then if you are part of the governance or not, depends if you are part on the steering team. So I will differentiate these two layers. But here the important thing is that you are part of the community, and for being part of the community, there are no any eligibility requirement.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions from our audience? You can always add them to the Q&A, or even later if something pops into your mind. No? Great. So maybe before we go ahead to Stefania's presentation, we could maybe launch a little poll that we prepared just to have a little feedback. And for that, I want to invite all the ECOPs from our audience. It's just a small one, so it shouldn't take that much time. So we have a couple of questions. I can see the answers and our panelists as well. As soon as we're finished the poll, I will share a bit of the results here, but it's just to get to know you a little bit and to understand actually your background. So I will give 1-2 minutes here, and then you can go over the results briefly, very briefly. As of now, all of our audience members right now have said they are early career ocean professionals, which is a first. Usually in our webinars, there's at least 1 or 2 people that are a bit older, but it's even more exciting. Okay, then we have people joining from Asia, from Europe, West Africa, North America, and South America. Oh, and nobody from East Africa yet. So maybe I'm gonna just quickly share the screen so you can see it as well. There we go.
Oh, cool.
So can you see it as well? No.
Not really.
Okay, technical problems. 1 second.
But I can see on the voting, on the pop-up window, I can see the results.
Okay, great, at least in this way. Well, sorry about that. Yes, it seems I cannot share the results yet with our participants. That's too bad. Well, we use these polls also as a sort of feedback for improvements for the future to reach a broad audience. But for now, at least I can tell you all that the majority of our audience coming from the sector of academia and research. We have However, few people that are in education and outreach, and even some in industry and the private sector, some from that are part of NGOs, and some are even in government and policy. So that's quite interesting. I didn't expect that, to be honest. And then we can see that there are a lot of people that have a little bit of experience, some of at least global, regional, and coastal ocean prediction initiatives. Then we have a little bit of experience in usage of ocean predictions for service and applications. Some other activities, we don't know yet, but maybe you want to write them in the chat. So people that have said they are involved in other activities related to ocean prediction, feel free to write what exactly you're doing in the chat, and we can see that later on. And we have, of course, several people that have no direct experience, but they are interested in learning more. And then we have about 60% of people that don't know, really have no experience with the Ocean Prediction CCC, DCC, or the Atlas. But okay, at least 40% is not that bad, right? Okay, so we have finished with our first poll. And if you want to go ahead, Stefania, and do your presentation, you want to share the screen?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Naomi.
Perfect.
Share the screen. Hello, everyone. And I guess you can see my screen, right? In full screen. Perfect. So again, hello everyone, and thank you, Enrique, for this introduction that opens to the second pillar, particularly that will explain somehow the path that the Ocean Prediction DCC is following by putting in place the virtuous loop that Enrique was mentioning before. So the Ocean Forecasting Co-Design team is what? Is basically the answer to a kind of understanding of the let's say somehow the gaps that the systems technically has or we recognize that might have in being somehow disconnected among them, as was shown before somehow in the previous slide by Enrique. And where basically there is no possibility to use a common tools for operating and for assessing and validating the operational forecasting system and exploits their products. And because of that, we see an opportunity with the decade that is the way we could somehow take the opportunity for opening a new scenario for ocean forecasting and somehow exploiting what the digital twin is going to provide to us in terms of solutions for operating our forecasting system. And in such kind of path, the solution is somehow identified by thinking on how to achieve these challenges, and the Ocean Forecasting Co-Design team within the Ocean Prediction DCC has had the major role to identify this kind of answer to our questions. And here we are basically with the technical collaboration that the DCC has put in place by gathering experts in the fields of ocean forecasting, ocean science, and towards, let's say, also fields that are related on technology and ocean science as well, to identify the three major kind of topics that we want to achieve and we want to develop all together. The first related on the common architecture, the second related on how we define standards and best practices for working and advancing our operational forecasting system, and finally, the mechanisms that is going to support us in this journey, that is the operational readiness level. Again, as Enrique was mentioning, this is done in strong collaboration with other worldwide initiatives in the framework of the Ocean Decade. and of course supported by a number of experts that comes from research institutes, academia, and also private companies that are briefly here represented with their icons. So the first question that the ocean forecasting co-design team did to itself was how well we are doing with ocean forecasting, and to depict to have a screenshot of the today capacity. The result was a paper that we published recently in Ocean State Report that wanted to answer to this question by providing a kind of evaluation of operational forecasting systems at today from the experts and the end user standpoints. And this paper is available, is published in the Ocean State Report in the issue number 7, and you have here the link and you can find it in the online. And what we have done in this paper, basically, we submitted a set of surveys to both champions, so the experts and the end users. And here you have the results, some of the results of the pool that we submitted to the experts in what we call the diagnosis of the ocean forecasting capacity. To set up the methodology, basically, we asked a kind of to evaluate how the essential ocean variables, a set of essential ocean variables that are here represented for the blue, the green, and the white ocean, so currents, sea level, ice, waves, but also biochemistry and biology, are suited to provide a solution for the different scales from global to regional to coastal scale, and particularly trying to provide a rate with respect to the 4 major categories that are the exigence of the specific operational forecasting system, its quality, accessibility, and timeliness in accessing the forecast itself. And the first chart you see in the heat map gives a quite clear message that the experts, so the people that develops and are in forefront in developing and operating ocean forecasting systems, are quite satisfied about the capacity, today capacity in providing predictions for currents, sea level, and also ice variables, particularly from global to regional scale. With an outstanding rates for the waves forecasting systems that are providing quite huge support in the different scales for what concern forecasting products, while the situation changes a little when we go towards the green variables, so the ones that are related on predicting biochemistry and biological variables, where the rates are quite not so very high, so ranging between 3.5 and less than 6, meaning that we need, the experts understand that there is a huge need of improving the capacity of forecasting system in predicting such class of categories of variables. And when we go at coastal scale, of course, the situation is spread among the different variables, because there is a need more and more to have high resolution and high quality essential ocean variables that are specifically suited for the coastal region, and this opens also another important topic in how we build our forecasting system, particularly in the resolution, advancing the numerical kernels. And below in the histograms, you see qualitatively how the perception in the way the 4 categories are considered by the experts moves from global to coastal scale, degrading a bit towards the coastal scale. The same analysis done, considering the essential ocean variable has been performed also in the second pool related on the application. So understanding how, again, the essential ocean variable are serving today specific key applications in blue economy. And the different essential ocean variables that are seen in the x-axis of these charts are again replicated for the different coastal scales. And you have a very an impactful way of seeing how the essential ocean variables are mapped with respect to the different applications, meaning that when we go in the coastal region, we need more and more, let's say, coverage, I mean, availability of such kind of essential ocean variables in order to provide solutions for the different key applications and services. And still the regional models are providing quite sufficient support, and of course the global, at global scale, we have particularly applications that are more suited to, let's say, to be developed in a more wide domain. And so, of course, here the global systems cannot, of course, serve very coastal-oriented applications. But the situation changes a bit when we go to the analyzing the same kind of pool done for the experts with the end users. The end users seems to be pretty happy about the today offer in terms of forecasting systems. So the rates, the main scores per variable that they assigned for the different categories, the TRR, accuracy, reliability, timeliness, accessibility, and usability of ocean forecasting is always above 6 and spanning between, in average, between 6.5 and 8. Again, waves is well located, of course. Also, it's true that biological and biogeochemical variables seems to be in the lower rate, but always above this. They are quite satisfactory, of course, because the users needs also our forecasting products for supporting their applications, and they are considered a valuable source of information for that. And more than 90% of the users are pretty satisfied about the ability at today to provide a solution in terms of prediction. So this is to open a bit the floor to the virtuous loop that Enrique was mentioning before, that is based on the combination of 4 major elements. So the first element that we have to consider is the knowledge. Building our common knowledge is fundamental for advancing ocean science, for advancing forecasting systems and provide better prediction. And in this sense, the expert team of operational ocean forecasting systems that is born within GOOS and supported by IOC and UNESCO, together with Mercator Ocean International, in the last years have been issued with a number of worldwide experts this guide that is available in the Ocean Prediction DCC website, and that Enrique was mentioning before is now converted in a wiki format to gather your contributions, so to keeping this document alive and always at the state of the art with respect to the shared knowledge. And together with this, recently we launched another initiative that is a collection of papers that will contribute to a special issue in an international journal that again is taking as benefit the community that is supporting the Ocean Prediction DCC in describing the present status of ocean forecasting from global to coastal scale, but also looking on what the regions are doing. So again, your engagement will be will enrich in the future revision of this kind of papers, without forgetting the baseline that is related on the availability of numerical models, observations, methods for validating our systems, and also building more complex configurations with coupled models and data simulation methodologies. Without forgetting another important topic that is related on cross-cutting aspects, the way we engage the end users, and also support ocean literacy initiatives. having the knowledge gives us the opportunity to build now robust ocean forecasting services. And this was the second task that we had to develop, for which we provided a kind of first solution, and everything is summarized in the architecture guide. The architecture guide basically is the way we designed the different components that characterize the ocean value chain, from the upstream data to the model kernels and cores, finally to the forecasting dissemination, forecast product dissemination, and how they are used for developing downstream services. And each of these components has inside the specific core or task that has been analyzed in detail, and for which we have identified what are the tools that we need to develop along the decade, and what are the data standards that we need to define in order to push these architectures to work in a digital ecosystem in a more interoperable way. And of course, this is not an easy task, and all the details are again available in the architecture guide that is published in the OceanPrediction DCC website, as before mentioned by Enrique. And now we are in a we are affording a new task related that we recently launched in the perspective of defining the recommendation on data standards for ocean forecasting. This is not an easy task, of course, because when we talk about how we want to manage information, every time this opens many challenges from the technical and technological point of view. So we have to define to understand what the data standards are in terms of the capacity they have in aggregating the information, but particularly why we need this in ocean forecasting. And of course, we have a list of important objectives that we want to achieve with that. So for supporting capacity development, for facilitating user uptake, integrating the portfolio of data in the dedicated digital ecosystem, and so on, promoting, of course, interoperability. And who is doing that? Of course, the community. This is a strong community that is built around ocean prediction, that include Mercator Ocean, but also Goose, IOD, and the other decade initiatives that have been mentioned before, like the DCO on data sharing and observation for sea and DITO. And going back, trying to have a bridge with the architectural document, you will see once you access that we have identified at the moment in the architectural guide the objective that each of the specific component of the architecture should follow in order to adopt data standards, be able to identify the data standards we need in order to interoperate these objects that are fundamental for developing a forecasting system. And at the end, the major objective that we want to achieve is to have a complete set of information, digital information that combine information for the datasets and for the data. In the data at dataset level, including the information related on the quality of our datasets, so the forecast products that we deliver, and the manual that gives us the instructions on how to use these products, together with the vocabulary that we have to develop in order to interoperate the datasets, and of course the metadata associated. And of course, this is combined with the data itself, for which we need to identify the right metadata for describing each type of data in terms of, for instance, timestamp, variable, resolution, and so on, together with the format of the file that we need to use for sharing this information. And this, once we have the operational, we have identified and developed the forecasting service, we need then to operate it and possibly also upgrade it. And the way we thought that could be a kind of element or mechanism to support this activity is summarized in the operational readiness level. That is a methodology, a mechanism that we have put in place and that is described in the paper led by Enrique and by the whole community available that has been recently published, that follows on that has the primary objective of promoting the evolution of the forecasting system, somehow certifying the level of maturity of your forecasting system. And we identified 3 major categories that are identified in this ladder in the production. So the first digit is related on how we produce the forecast. How we validate the product is the second digit. So embracing also concepts related on the scientific assessment of the system together with the usage of the observation, but also intercomparing the models that are available in the same region. And finally, the third category is related on product dissemination. So how we transfer and we share the information with the community and with the users. The operational readiness level is based on a kind of incremental criteria. So we have identified for each of the categories described before a set of criteria that allows us to progressively increment or first identified which is our baseline, that is the step 1. So having your forecasting system, you can recognize for the 3 digits what is the level of maturity of your system. But of course, with the approach of increment the score by analyzing in the next step what can be the criterion that applies to your system, and eventually also consider this as an element for evolving in case this criterion is not fully achieved. What can be the next step for advancing your operational forecasting system? And this is quite powerful, not for somehow putting a value on your system, but really stimulating you to advance it at the best in the 3 categories that we have identified as fundamental for supporting an ocean forecasting service. And of course, everything is at the end has the final goal to provide all the tools and the capacity for integrating the forecasting systems in the digital ecosystem. Of course, somehow considering, I mean, the powerful and the challenging opportunity that we have with the digital twin of the ocean. So with the capacity of implementing and interoperating forecasting systems worldwide, because of course we have to we cannot forget that we have one ocean, and the scope of the DCC together with the community is to connect the world around the ocean that we have, that is our let's say our life. So with that, I leave the floor to Liliana, and I thank you for your attention.
Great, thank you, Stefania. I think we have some questions first before we go to Lilian, right? Do you want to go over them now? Oh, and then we see a lot of interaction from the audience. That's so nice.
Very good.
I think this was for before, right? This was still for you, Enrique. It was about yes. So I answered the first one in the Q&A because somebody asked where do we send the CV that was about the regional teams, right? So do you want to go over it again, Enrique, or is the answer enough?
I think you replied it perfectly well. We are doing this in a coordinated effort with the ECOP program, so you have to contact the ECOP program for doing this.
Okay, so yeah, that would be directly in response to that. I've added it again in the chat as well. And Yeah, I think all the questions were related to that. But yeah, so maybe I think we have to ask our expert if the responses were correct. So there was a debate about the global, regional, and the coastal resolutions. And we were debating the spatial and temporal resolutions. So before we mess it up entirely, maybe the experts here should solve the mystery and tell us what to expect when we say global, regional, and coastal resolution.
Stefania, you go for it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I will try to give an answer, of course, keeping into account that we are also publishing in this special issue also 3 papers on this topic that will clarify in a more complete way this question. But of course, I mean, when we talk about the resolution, I mean, and we consider the different these 3 scales that we are keeping into account. We are purely referring to the numerical resolution of our model. Of course, the global domain requires to provide a specific, I mean, prediction for the global ocean. We need to compensate, I mean, to develop a model that must compensate also with the technological challenges that are strictly related to run it, to produce with a certain timeliness the product. And of course, at global scale, we consider, apart the resolution, there is also a specific discussion related on the ocean processes that we can solve at a specific scale. That is usually the so-called large-scale circulation that we can reproduce with global models. Of course, as second level, we need to have a zoom at more regional scale, in the sense that we want to provide a solution that is higher in accuracy with respect to the global, and still, I mean, supporting the scope of a production, of a forecasting systems in terms of production. So at regional scale, we start to also test and a physics that is much more resolved, in sense that we can better resolve specific scales, and trying also to increase the complexity of the system itself, for instance, including it's not, I mean, just as an example, capacity in assimilating observations in order to improve the accuracy of the forecast, or starting to build a more complex system that can be coupled, I mean, with the atmosphere. And of course, when we go to the coastal scale, our level of details deserves much more attention. We have at coastal scales also other challenges related on the interaction between the land and the sea. So we need to better resolve the interface between the 2 domains, and at the same time accounting on the peculiarities from the topographical point of view of the coastline. And this requires, I mean, much more resolution in our forecasting system, in our models, supported by a physics that can watch really at the small scale processes. And of course, the journey is fundamentally based on the physics that we want to, and we are able to resolve at the different scales. So at today, we have the possibility to access different products from global to regional scale, and more new coastal systems are going to be developed also to answer to specific questions and needs from the user perspective in developing more advanced applications in support to marine, for instance, marine conservation, biodiversity, or for supporting engineering studies or operations in ports and so on.
Okay, so it's not at all so straightforward as we were thinking. It's much more complex. And it sounds like if you want to
it requires, sure, and it requires a multidisciplinary approach. Of course, keeping into account our baseline that is well described in the ETUF's guide, is based on the numerical equations that we have to solve. And of course, depending on the scale, we need to refine our numerical tools in order to provide a good representation of the sea state.
Thank you very much for this explanation. I think it was much needed, even for me, to have a better overview. And it sounds like you almost need like a supercomputer to have a complex global model, right? It's not so easy to provide that power.
And this is another important topic. I mean, the computational cost of the systems is, as you can imagine, it's when we operate forecasting system is the technological component is also another important challenge. And we have, as the numerical models and numerical schemes evolves, also the way we integrate them and we resolve them in through our HPC or our computers is another important topic to be considered and keep into account. And again, in our special issue, we are also trying to provide some kind of overview of the present status of the technologies that a forecaster can consider for improving the timeliness of the products and be more effective with applications and downstream services also in this perspective. And there is a huge literature in the HPC, particularly with the traditional kind of computer, but also GPU computing, cloud computing, together with the growing wave of the challenges that are now we have with artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques for improving forecast products, and not only. So, of course, we need to keep into account also the computational cost of all these systems. And this can be sometimes also a constraint in the delivery of our products.
Great, thank you for that. Do we have any other questions? Oh, there is one more in the Q&A. So is it important having good programming skills? That's the question.
Well, I mean, of course, I mean, it's important. The beauty of this world, I think, is that the spirit of when we talk about ocean predictions, at least in my experience and with the work I'm doing, and also with the collaboration of Enrique, I'm learning that more and more it's this field is quite inclusive in the sense that multiple type of skills can coexist. So we need good people that programs that are able to understand the numerical schemes, but also that are skilled in programming operational chains. So the workflow that allows you to produce a forecast, and that can require specific skills, as well as people that are fully aware of the physical processes like oceanographers, physicists, and so on, or that are aware of biochemical processes and topics. So, of course, when we operate forecasting systems, it's true that a very important component is also based on the technical skills of who operates, who develops, designs the forecasting systems.
Thank you for your explanation, Stefan. And I think with that, we need to go over to Lilian's part, right? If you have any more questions, please reach out afterwards or write your questions, and then I can forward them to our speakers afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, good. Hello, everybody. Can you see my screen? Yes, good, great. I'm going to be presenting a new project called OPERA, which stands for Ocean Prediction Enhancement in the Regions of Africa. It's the first project under the Ocean Prediction DCC that we are launching, which is really exciting because it will be really a pilot project to put into operation all the different resources that have been developed in the DCC, and also it will pave the way for other projects adapted to other regions. So that's very, very exciting. So I'm going to just speak a bit about it, and then about the project and what opportunities they could be for ECOPs within this project. So what is its objective? It's really to improve the ocean forecasting capabilities and cooperation in Africa to improve the sustainable management of resources and human welfare. How are we going to do this? So we're going to collaborate with up to three African centers. 2 will be specialized in thematic applications, and 1 in ocean forecasting, to promote the development of what we call digital ocean centers, linked to global and European networks via the Ocean Prediction DCC. It's a 4-year project, started in January, and will run up to December 2028. It's funded by the European Union as part of their ECOP Programme, which is a program to support African regional centers of excellence towards the green transition. Who is eligible? It's open to sub-Saharan institutions, and this is something that is decided by the European Commission, who was in charge of this call. So it's a project that will be implemented by Mercator Ocean International. So we'll be leveraging everything that we've been doing in Copernicus Marine and the European Digital Twin Ocean, and also through our coordinating role of the Decade Collaborative Center. It has 5 main objectives. So the first one is really to strengthen cooperation and the community in Africa around ocean forecasting, really starting with what's been established by the DCC's African regional team. Second is really focusing on capacity building and knowledge sharing. The third is to co-design and develop digital ocean services and applications. So these could be disaster risk reduction, oil spill detection, etc., built and operated by what I just mentioned, digital ocean centers in Africa. The fourth is to co-design and develop African ocean forecasting systems for essential ocean variables to be operated again by these digital ocean centers that will be established by the project. And the last will be really focusing on the science to policy interface, user uptake, sustainability of the action, with a focus of the development of a technical infrastructure to disseminate all the project results. So I'll just quickly go through how it's structured. So it's a classical project. The heart is really looking at the development of these digital ocean centers that we're focusing on applications and ocean forecasting, the central part. But there will also be a very big component focusing on capacity building and knowledge transfer. And of course, the community building and the science to policy engagement, which will also be very, very important. And just to go through some of the tasks. So the first one, as I said, is to build this community around ocean forecasting, starting with the African regional team. So we'll be linking up with different communities that are already existing to make sure we're not going to reinvent the wheel. And we're going to build on everything that's already been established and everything that's already in operation. So we'll be working closely with GMIS in Africa, the African Ocean Decade Task Force, IOC Africa, the UNEP-C conventions, and amongst others. This activity will also really look at mapping the existing ocean forecasting activities in Africa, identifying needs and priorities, and also feeding the atlas, the DCC Atlas, with all the existing components. We're going to also activate or revamp the forum in place to really have this knowledge sharing in place, and of course, communication and dissemination. So the second one around capacity building and knowledge sharing, so this would be really, really interesting for the ECOPs, is that we have 2 big components that will be supported by the project. The first is really to develop massive online open courses around this virtuous loop that both Stefania and Enrique have been speaking about with these 4 resources. So the basic knowledge with the ECOP guide, the building of robust systems with the architecture guide, updating and evaluating ocean forecasting systems with the ORL, and of course, integration and service applications development. So these massive online open courses will be open to everyone, and we hope to launch the first one on the ECOP guide in the last quarter of this year. And with each level, with each course, it'll become more and more advanced. And as I said, it'll be open for everyone. And then we have a second component, which will be really dedicated to the different partners within the project. And this will really be focusing on having summer courses and long-term visits to Europe. But this, unfortunately, won't be open to everyone. So going to the thematic development of thematic applications. So this is, we hope to establish with this project 2 regional coordinators, geographically balanced, and each will be working with up to 4 African centers to develop applications running on integrating ocean forecasting products. So these have not been defined yet, neither have the consortia. The consortia will be established via open and competitive calls. And we're hoping to launch these in mid-year. So this will be the applications part. And once they've been launched, we hope that implementation and development of the applications will start in January 2026. Then the ocean forecasting component. This is really to, again, work with one regional center that will be working with up to 4 other African institutions to build state-of-the-art regional ocean forecasting system for essential ocean variables and at least up to 3 coastal ocean forecasting centers. So this again will be through an open and competitive call to set up this consortium, and all the results, as I said, will be integrated into a hub, which I'll come to a bit later. Just something to mention on this one. So everything that's been established in the architecture guide that Stefania and Enrique both spoke about will be actually translated into software in this component. And this is going to be actually quite interesting because this software will be available for the global community at the end of the project. So just the technical framework, this is what we really want to establish. 3 consortia, one on really focusing on developing these ocean forecasting systems, and 2 on regional thematic applications. And these will be supported by a technology transfer team, as well as the upper project team at Mercator Ocean International. And of course, everything needs to be, let's say, translated into policy, and we have to make sure that it's taken up by decision makers. And that brings me to the last objective, which is on sustainability and user uptake. So this is really looking at how to make sure that after the project ends, everything that's built continues to be supported and is of use and is making impact. So we are also working very closely with the Ocean Decade African Task Force, which have developed a roadmap. And in their roadmap, they have outlined their priorities to develop an African knowledge hub. So through Opera, we hope to build the ocean forecasting component of this knowledge hub. So we'll be working very closely with them to define how we're going to build it and implement and develop it during this project. And again, we'll be working very closely with key African stakeholders at regional and continental levels to make sure that the project is being advised by these groups and actually being supported by these groups, because sustainability is really, really important. So as just to end with, so the 2 big phases of the project. The first one is this year, 2025, which is where we're really trying to establish the foundation of the project. And this is really to identify and build the consortia, as I said, through open calls, and work with the different stakeholders in Africa to define the characteristics of the African Knowledge Hub, and also start some of the capacity development activities. And then the second phase, which is the development phase, will take place from next year, 2026. And this is where we'll really start implementing and developing the different ocean forecasting systems and applications, and continuing with the capacity development activities. So just to conclude, this is an overall conclusion for our 3 presentations. The Ocean Prediction DCC will work very in close collaboration with decade partners, including the ECOP Programme, to promote worldwide ocean forecasting and its applications. There's a very strong community being organized. Well, it is organized already, and it is growing around the regional teams, and ECOPs are very welcome to join. First technical results of this effort are very, very visible through the architecture guide, the operational readiness level, the Atlas, the forum, and there are many, many more to come with the release of the papers that both Stephanie and Enrique mentioned. The Opera project will be really critical to advance this vision with all the different resources the Opera project will provide, the development of software, the development of applications, capacity development opportunities. So there's a lot of resources that the Opera project will bring to the DCC in Africa and beyond. And we really encourage you to register on the website and be part of this community and stay updated for different opportunities to come. And I think that's it from me.
Great. Thank you so much, Lillian, for this interesting part of the talk. I think we have another question here for you. Yes. So when the software
I share them with Enrique.
So now this question is specifically for you. You're mentioned by name. So when the software becomes available, will it be open source? I think you mentioned it already, right? Please, if you want to say something more.
Yeah, it will be open source.
And is there a way maybe people can keep up to date? Should they register?
Yeah, they should register. We're not going to have a different website for this project. Everything will be available via the Ocean Prediction DCC website. We have news updates. All the progress related to the project will be published on the website or on social media or in other channels as they come along. But that will be the best way to stay on board. We will have an information day in May online on the project, just different calls to go into more detail and explain really, because I went really fast. There's a lot that I left out, of course. And yeah, so this will be also very interesting for anybody who's interested to be involved or take part in the capacity development activities and any other activities that come along.
Great. So since we don't have that much time left, would it be okay if we share your LinkedIn links for 3 of you here that people can follow up if they have any more questions? Is that okay for all 3 of you?
Yeah, that's fine. Or something easier is you just give us a list of the questions and we can also just reply by mail. I don't know what's easier because...
Whatever you prefer, that's up to you.
Yeah.
So I guess we have a couple minutes left for any questions, if there are any. Maybe people can even raise their hand if they want. Otherwise, we have one last poll, which is just have a little bit of feedback. So is there anybody else in the audience that would like to ask something? I just saw in the chat, there's somebody who asked if they can get access to the presentations. I don't know, you will for sure have access to the recording, so we will share the link afterwards. It will be available through the YouTube channel, so you can always check there again if you want to follow up. But the presentations themselves, I don't know what your plan was, but usually it's not a practice that we have that we share the presentations themselves. It's always up to the speakers. So if there are no questions, please go ahead.
You're the organizer, so the presentation as you wish. But I think if we have the video recorded, maybe that is right.
Yes, I think the video recording should be enough. There's the entire presentation with the common questions as well, so it's even more useful. So if there are no other questions, again, don't miss this opportunity. Check the links that we have added in the chat. And with that, I would like to launch another last poll. If we don't have any technical issues. 1 second. There we go. So it's just a very short one with 4 short questions, but it's quite interesting for us as well and for the team of the Ocean Prediction DCC to learn more about how we can interact better as a community. So please, if the audience could go ahead and answer the questions, that would be great. Once you'll have maybe 2-3 minutes for that. Once you finish, then I will share the results, which should work this time, I hope. In the meantime, you as panelists should be able to see the responses in real time.
So that's good. We seem to be on the right direction because we're on LinkedIn and we have a newsletter. Which seem to be
Yes,
those votes.
I'm just giving a couple more seconds since we have also the option for a long answer.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe 10 more seconds and then we can share the results. Okay, so I will end the poll now. And you should be all seeing the results right now. So as you already mentioned, LinkedIn and the newsletter are always the ones that have the biggest appeal. Then, no, I can't seem to see the answer right now for the features, but I will forward them to you. Oh, yes, no, I have a glitch again, sorry about that. But yeah, I will forward the answer to the features that they think are essential for fostering idea sharing, discussion, and networking in the forum. I think that might be quite interesting to see. Then all the people would be interested in attending a similar webinar on the ocean prediction. And then again, we have an answer for the aspects that could be improved, which is very good for us as the ECOP training and mentoring task team. So we'll forward this information as well. Thank you all for participating in the poll. And thank you, most of all, speakers, for agreeing to participate, giving your time freely and your expertise. Thank you also to the audience who came along. It's quite nice to see that we had a big interest in that topic. Again, if anybody wants to reach out, feel free to do so. The recording will be available in 1 to 2 days in the channel. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss, ask? If not, then thanks again and have a beautiful day. Until the next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.